I was recently at Podcast Movement Conference in Los Angeles, and one of the keynote sessions was the YouTube podcasting team. They got on stage, shared a bunch of interesting statistics and what YouTube is doing to make podcasts more discoverable and helping you reach a wider audience. And maybe you've heard that it's time to add video to your podcast and YouTube is in its podcasting era. This was a headline from The Verge, but it's more clear to me than ever, after recently launching a podcast myself, how important it is to not only be on the YouTube platform, but taking advantage of the podcast-specific features on YouTube and sharing clips of your podcast in YouTube Shorts to help reach that wider audience. But first, let me share some statistics that the YouTube podcasting team shared at the conference that you might find pretty surprising. Most analysts now see YouTube as the #1 podcast platform, not only for discovery, but also where people just go to consume podcasts, to listen and watch. I've actually heard from a lot of listeners personally, I'm going to show you their comments in a second, that they just listen to the show on YouTube. It's just playing in the background while they're working or doing other stuff on their computer. This is also a huge way to reach Gen Z, which 84% of Gen Z monthly podcast listeners discovered a podcast on YouTube. Again, in my anecdotal experience, I've found many people discovering my new show because of the YouTube channel. Not only that though, 31% of weekly podcast consumers who listened to a new show in the past 6 months started listening on YouTube. And that's important, the weekly podcast listeners. In the past, the audio-only audience was the most faithful, or the ones that were really consuming a podcast. But more and more, that is shifting over to the podcasts on YouTube, people who listen every week. So if you release regular new episodes, having those episodes on YouTube is a big deal. All right, a couple more stats. 84% of Gen Z watch podcasts with video, and 37% of podcast listeners prefer the video aspect of their show. And 40% of podcast newcomers prefer podcasts with video. So those are the stats. But number 2, YouTube is doing a lot for podcast creators to make it easy to get on the platform. For instance, under the Explore section, there's an entire page just for podcast episodes. And regardless of your show size, I have seen even our podcast, which is pretty small compared to some of these larger channels, it can be featured on this YouTube podcast page. And from the creator side, you can create a podcast right here from YouTube, going to create new podcast, and this can be something brand new. You can set an existing playlist as a podcast, which can have it featured on that podcast page, or you can submit an audio-only RSS feed from your current podcast host, and YouTube will ingest those audio files and create videos, basically static images of your podcast artwork, and upload them to a YouTube channel. Now, we would still recommend doing actual video, turning on your camera, talking to it for you and your co-host, and I'll give you a few tools on how to make that easy in a second. YouTube is also improving the discovery aspect both in the YouTube app and in YouTube Music, so you'll be able to find shows that you love, and podcasts will be surfaced to more viewers right there on the homepage. Now, like I mentioned, this is a trend that even I've experienced in my own show. We recently started a community for our new tech podcast, and I was surprised how many comments I got that said they watch the show on YouTube every week. Others saying they mostly watch on YouTube. And I've been doing podcasts for 13 or 14 years, doing audio only for a long time, and it was surprising to me how much of the audience discovered the podcast via YouTube and are just consuming it there. Even when they really enjoy the show and they're following along with new episodes every week, they are largely doing it on YouTube. You can also learn more about everything YouTube is doing for podcasting. There was a recent article and video from creator liaison Renee Ritchie and how they're working to make podcasts more discoverable for a wider audience. And I'm going to show you how to add video easily in just a second, but keep in mind, if you've been doing audio only for a long time, or maybe that's really your focus, keep doing that. This is in no way saying you should stop the audio only version of your show just because you're adding video. Do both. This is the YouTube channel for our tech podcast. We're publishing those full episodes every week and trying to take advantage of the short form video for discoverability, but we're also on all the listening apps as well, whether that's Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We make sure the audio only version is spot on as well. So obviously do both, then you can reach your listeners and viewers wherever they are. So after hearing all that, hopefully you're ready to add video to your podcast. It can be intimidating if you've never done it before, but I'm going to show you some quick tips that will make it seamless, not only for recording, but also editing that video content to save you as much time as possible. Now, I have an entire step-by-step video going through the entire video podcast recording, editing, and publishing process, like everything from plugging in a USB microphone to your computer, all the way to publishing it on YouTube. I'll link that video above and down below, but if you don't already, a good USB mic like this one, this is only $50 on Amazon. You can plug it directly into your computer or iPad or even iPhone. Yes, you could podcast with just your iPhone and the Riverside app. If you want to learn more about that, I'll link a video above and down below. But that's really all you need. And don't worry about trying to invest in an expensive camera when you're just starting out. Using your mobile phone like this can actually get you incredible quality video and honestly is better than most standalone webcams as well. Then whether you're doing a solo podcast or you have remote guests and co-hosts, obviously you should use Riverside to record. You're going to get high quality video and audio because those files are saved locally on the device, so no internet blips or freezes are going to affect your recording, and then the editing tools in Riverside will help get that content out really fast. So this is the Riverside dashboard. When you log into your account, you just click Go to Studio when you're ready to record. From here, you choose your camera and your USB microphone or audio interface if you have that. You select one and you'll see a drop down of all the devices connected to your computer. You can still use your built-in mic, or if you have an iPhone and Android phone, you can use that as a webcam as well. If you want to learn more about that, video's in the description. But after you choose your microphone and camera, you can select whether or not you're using headphones. We recommend headphones just because it limits that feedback and audio coming out of the speakers going into your microphone as the host. And then let's join the studio. All right, now we're in the studio. We're basically ready to record. If you're doing a solo show, just hit the record button. You're off and running. But if you want to invite a remote guest or co-host, click the invite button up here. You'll see this guest link pop up. Just copy that link, send it to them. They load it in a web browser like Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge, or they can open that link on their iPhone, Android device, and iPad with the Riverside app installed, and they can just record from their mobile device as well. Then when you're ready, hit record. You'll get a countdown, which you can disable in the studio settings if you'd like. And once that hits 0, you're recording in high quality video and audio, both you and your remote guests or co-hosts. It's being saved to the Riverside platform, and then you can edit all of this content easily in the editor. When you're done recording your episode, just click the stop button, and now that's saved. You'll see those high quality video and audio files will be uploaded. You'll see everyone's progress here in the bottom left corner. Then when you go back to your Riverside dashboard, you'll see all of your past recordings here. And I'm going to jump quickly into one and just show you some features that make it really fast to export this content. We have an AI generated show notes feature. You see here you get a summary, which is great for a YouTube video description, keywords, which you can paste as the tags in your YouTube video, some takeaways, possible titles, sound bites, and even chapter markers to make it easy to create those chapters in YouTube as well. You can generate magic clips, which will automatically generate vertical video with animated captions on top, making it easy to share to YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and Instagram Reels. But the real magic comes in the editor. When I click the edit button in the top right corner, I can create a new edit and get my full episode ready to upload to YouTube. We'll automatically put you and your co-host side by side. If you'd like, you could rearrange that using the tracks option here on the right-hand side. We have different layout options like adding space between the videos, rounding the corners, and you can even add things like a custom background or use one of the stock backgrounds we make available right here in the editor. You can add those animated captions if you'd like. And in order to edit the content, it's as easy as selecting words or sentences and just pressing delete. Like you're editing a Word document, you just edited your audio and video. You can use the search box to jump to a specific point in the recording. You can also see every time that word was spoken down here in the timeline. We also have magic tools like set pace, so you can remove the perfect amount of silence. This way it has a good pace throughout the entire recording. We also have great overlay tools like text overlays, which is great for titles, maybe URLs, or sponsors that you'd like to highlight during the episode. You can overlay images. You can actually search for royalty-free images right here in Riverside. Select one of those. It'll overlay on the video. You can resize, move it around, and you can also upload your own images if you'd like. Add those overlays. Create really visually engaging content. You can preview that, see the animated captions with the highlighted active word. And when you're ready to export, just click the export button in the top right corner. You can export up to 4K video quality, which is great for YouTube. Normalize audio to make everything the same volume, and export video. You'll then be able to download that video file and upload it to your YouTube channel and set it as your podcast. If you want to learn more about creating a podcast on YouTube and setting a playlist as a show, I'll put that video right up here that has a step-by-step through that entire process. And if you're ready to upgrade your video or audio setup at home, well, I'll put a video right here that goes through multiple budget levels on how to get better video and audio quality. Don't forget to subscribe to the Riverside channel. We offer lots of podcast tips, how to grow your show, market it, and more. And if you have any questions, leave comments below this video. I answer all of those personally. Thanks for watching. We can't wait to see the podcasts you create.